How can you listen for the gold when a client is upset and sharing? I'm Kathy Virtually from theintimacydojo.com, and
I'm Reed Mahalko from readaboutsex.com. That's where I am from.
And also,
creator of Sex Geek Summer Camp.
Yes. And I recently had this happen, and I remember you sharing. I remember your words were in my head. Mm-hmm. A client was very upset. It wasn't anything that had happened at the event that they were at, but they were very upset. And then they were kind of like sharing about it, but also trying to tell me upgrades for the event at the same time. So they weren't upset about the upgrades per se, but they were upset in general. And it was very hard to, in the midst of this,
to hear the gold nuggets.
And I think it's often true that when people are upset, they let out some of the things that they would normally kind of say, "Oh, don't worry about it." People sometimes
get more critical.
I think sometimes they're more authentic too. They may be more critical, but they also could be sharing more things they would normally stuff down or try to gloss over.
You mean when people are more upset, they lie less and will actually tell you the truth?
Sometimes, yes.
Sometimes.
So how do you, when you're doing this, how do you just be present with them and weed through when you're getting this?
Well, if you're not reacted, if you're not, if you don't get reactive about how they're bringing you information, they're just bringing you information. Mm-hmm. So we generally, not everyone, not always, generally hear what's going on better when we're not reactive.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So when people are offering me feedback, which is another word for criticism, it's called feedback. It's a French word, I believe. And so if you can hear criticism as actual critique, mm-hmm. but critique like from somebody who's trying to offer you something, mm-hmm. Or however you want to frame it. I frame it as, you're giving me feedback. I also grew up in a household with a family who didn't tell us jack shit. Yeah. So, literally, we found out on Wednesday our house was up for auction on Saturday because my dad had lost the house, but he didn't tell us. So I have a very
awkward.
It was very awkward. Mom was not pleased. So the thing for me is anyone telling me the truth, literally lands on me as relief, even if I'm scared or frightened or it's horrible news. I'm or
they're very angry.
Yeah, I can still get reactive, mm-hmm. but when somebody's telling me important information, there's a deep sense of relief because it's against the grain of how I was raised.
Yes.
So that is one of my superpowers for when people are giving me feedback. I'm trying to anchor it as this is a good thing.
Yeah.
So, and the more that I can be on a good day, non-reactive, the more I can receive what's actually going on. And then there are people that are offering you feedback, but they don't have clarity about what they're trying to say. And so you have to work a little harder to find the gold. You have to dig for it. Because if you imagine that everyone sharing with you is actually trying to deeply communicate with you, that curiosity or that intention to find the good stuff will often not, land on them as you not dismissing them. Mm-hmm. And in a world where so many people get dismissed, part of the reason they're so angry and yelling at you is because they want to be heard.
Yeah, they just want to be heard. So I know that sometimes if I feel intimidated, it's really hard for me to be grounded and calm, especially if it's someone that's bigger than me or they're very angry. Mm-hmm. What are tips you give people, or how do you handle it when someone's really, because people have intense feelings sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, again, everyone's life experience is different. I'm a very large man. I have a martial arts background, mm-hmm. so I'm not necessarily having, I'm not being, high alert for my physical harm and danger, which would totally keep me from being, or it would make me present in a very different way, right? The feedback is you need to be subdued. So I'm having a very different experience than somebody else.
Yeah.
the tools for you that will help you stay grounded and calm, so that you have choice in the situation. That is going to be useful no matter what. And in a video, we can't tell people, like, here's your tool.
No, but it is okay to set boundaries. I used to think
Absolutely.
that if I was facilitating, I had to be able to hold space for anything. And I had one client, again, was very angry, and not even at me, but it felt very unsafe to me. Mm-hmm. And so I had to tell that person, listen, I want to hear what you have to say. I'm really interested, and I need to wait until you calm. I'm not feeling safe right now. I need you to calm down. I need you to leave the home, or the event was in my house. Please leave. I'm really glad to set up a time to talk with you with a third party or in a neutral setting, but I'm not going to have this conversation in my house.
Yeah, and so one of the things are, it's okay to have needs. It's okay to have boundaries, or another way to think of it for some people might be to, like, I need structures so I can really take in your feedback and really hear you. Yeah. Because sometimes when you tell people that I have boundaries, they mean wall. They hear it as walls, and now you're doing something that their mom or dad did to them.
Shut them out,
or their wife or their husband or somebody in their life. Their boss. So, like, your boundaries are their barriers, and they want to, like, climb over them, right? Mm-hmm. So you might want to just tell them that, I have a deep need. Like, now somebody's yelling and screaming, you have to be like, I cannot have a conversation with you when you're yelling and screaming. Like, please leave, because I want to be able to hear you. I want to have the conversation. Mm-hmm. Now, don't lie to. I mean, if you have to lie for your safety, go for it. I don't think you're out of integrity there. But don't tell somebody that you're going to have a conversation with them later and then ghost them. And this is business advice, right?
And you can also tell them, like, hey, I thought I'd be able to have this conversation, and I've looked at it, and I'm not available. Like, don't just disappear.
Here's how I can, or here's what I'm willing to do to try to give you extraordinary customer service. The way I approach it is I'm coming from this perspective of most people are just getting shitty customer service in their day-to-day life, and no one's listening to them at home. Yeah. Certainly not their teenagers. No. So if I can start to leave them feeling heard and seen, that's going to help them tremendously. Yeah. But I'm also being curious, because I'm like, well, even if what they're saying I don't think is true for the workshop or the event, I'm going to listen, because maybe there is something that really ticked them off, or some feedback that they're offering that no one else has ever said or said in that way, that's going to allow me to have an aha moment. Mm-hmm. Just playing that game or having that intention seems to change the quality of my being present with people in a way that lands on them deeply in a customer service teacher, person who's on a fellow journey with you, but I'm just the one who's paddling the boat. Get in the boat, let's go. Like, it changes how I'm perceived.
Yeah, when you showed me that and you started modeling it, that was really powerful, because I grew up in a family where if someone yelled at you, your job was to defend, deflect, avoid, because it wasn't a conversation. Everyone was pretty high intensity all the time. But it really does help if you're tuning in a different way or listening in a different way from a different perspective. It makes it a lot easier not to get triggered.
And your journey and part of the trick for you as a teacher, facilitator, is going to be how can you hit that sweet spot and also be taking care of yourself? Yeah. Because it's not about throwing your self-care under the bus. And that's going to be unique and part of how you figure out how to be a good teacher, how to be a good facilitator. And it might change over time. It might change from week to week. So it's a journey.
Yeah. We'd love to know what you think. Please leave comments below. Let us know if you have any questions. Thanks, Reed.
Thanks, Kathy. Thank you.